Hello and welcome to The Millennial Attorney. This podcast is dedicated to talking with attorneys who have found innovative ways to make their practice better. I'm your host, Summer Johnson. While I'm neither an attorney or a millennial, I'm the Director of Operations for Mott Legal. I use my knowledge as an MBA and experience working in the legal industry to help attorneys run their law firms as profitable businesses. Who's a millennial attorney? We don't mean someone with a JD born between 1983 and 1989, but rather a new way of thinking and practicing law. The legal industry is changing. There's increasing customer demands, growing technological influence, and an oversaturated legal market. All of these things present new challenges to the practice of law. The Millennial Attorney Podcast offers insight into how to lean into the shift with business-savvy legal operations advice. I'm here today with Robert Sewell. He's an attorney with Davis, Miles, McGuire, Gardner Attorneys. It's a mouthful. One of the most awarded law firms in Arizona. His practice areas include probate litigation, real estate litigation, and commercial litigation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you start us off, like we like to do every time we do these, with a weekly win, something good that happened to you this week, professionally, personally?
Personally, for every Phoenix person who, anyone who lives in Phoenix will understand that this is a win. I got out of the heat.
Oh, nice.
I went out on the weekend and went up to Flagstaff, enjoyed the beautiful weather. And when I left Flagstaff, it was a beautiful 62 degrees with sprinkles off and on.
Wow, perfect.
And when I got back to the valley, it was 112 degrees.
Yep. Welcome back.
Welcome back to the hair dryer that is
Yes.
the valley. So.
Absolutely. My weekly win is today's the first day back. My kids go to school. I have 6 kids, so that's definitely a win. And they're all in school and happy, and they're 4 different schools, but we're happy to be there. Hopefully all goes well. Let's get right into it. Why did you become a lawyer?
I became a lawyer. I was an undergrad trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and in order to put myself through my undergrad, I started a business, and I was running my business. It was going well, and I sat down to do my taxes, and I thought, man, this is complex. And then every single time I came across a new legal problem in my business, and I'm like, man, my business is easy. I could get the customers, I could run the business, but all this business bullcrap is complex, and they make it so hard. And I thought, man, I can make money doing this. It was totally naive. But that's what sort of sparked my initial interest, was running a business, trying to deal with, well, now I have to have a business license. Oh,
right.
Really? I have to get a business license. What do I have to get that? Then I have to pay this tax and that tax, and then I have to have this insurance. And all this smorgasbord of legal problems became the most difficult part about running my business. And so when I started investigating, I thought, I could really enjoy this. And I think I could help people, and I think I can grow from it. So that's what initially sparked it.
So you wanted to get into business law?
Yeah, that was what initially sparked it. And I thought, this will be really good. And practicing law totally changed my perspective about that. When I decided to practice, and I started to sample the different areas, and my initial practice area was commercial litigation.
Okay.
And I quickly learned that wasn't meant for me.
No.
And so I moved.
Why? What was it that you didn't like about it?
Well, in commercial litigation, you are two business people or entities fighting each other.
Okay.
And typically, right? And whose contract interpretation is the best? And I always felt like I felt like it was a no-win situation.
Right.
Frequently, even if you won, it didn't feel like a win, because now you got to go collect on that judgment.
Yeah.
And even if you collected on the judgment, it never felt like a true win, because I never felt like the person I was helping afterwards felt better about their life.
Right.
I resolved it.
Yeah.
And frequently I did, well for people. I have a good record generally.
Uh-huh.
So, but it just didn't give me that satisfaction. And so I decided what I'd do is I'd sample different areas, and I tried some different areas. And I was a bigger firm, so I could sort of dabble a little bit with other attorneys. And then I noticed that no one at the firm was doing probate litigation, and I said, hey.
Was this with Davis Miles or with
Davis Miles.
Okay.
And this is in the earlier days of Davis Miles. And I went to my boss at the time and I said, hey, why doesn't anyone do probate litigation? And he says, because it sucks. It wasn't, he didn't use those words, but essentially that's what he said.
Basically.
And I said, well, what stinks about it? And he explains, there's fighting family members and, this and that. And I'm like, okay. And I said, well, that doesn't sound too bad to me. And so why I thought that, I don't know. And so I end up saying to him, hey, if you ever get another case, do you think you could guide me through it? And he said, yeah, I could guide you through it. And 2 weeks later, he says, there's a case, it's going to trial on Monday, you're it.
Oh, man.
And it was a guardian conservator case, and I didn't even know what guardian conservator was. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's totally naive. I don't know what I was thinking. But I figured it out, and I interviewed my client on Saturday, and I went to trial on Monday, and I win the case. But what struck me was I won because that was the right thing to do.
Okay.
It was the best thing.
Because it actually helped the client.
It helped everyone involved, that decision. And then I said, oh, so probate's about helping people move on. Resolving their conflicts so they can move on in life.
Okay.
And I thought, I like that. And I've taken that tact ever since. I'm going to help the client move on. I'm going to help that client get a resolution. And winning's important, okay, but getting a resolution that they could live with so they can feel better about themselves, because it is about family and it is about their peace of mind.
Right.
And trying to figure out a solution that's going to advance the holistic person.
That makes sense. So do you ever get clients that you feel like you're on the wrong side of it? Do you ever get clients that come in and they're like, oh, this person, family member, is doing this and that and this wrong, and when you look deeper into it, you feel like maybe they're not doing so many things wrong?
Sometimes you do represent the bad guy, if that's what you're saying. So to speak.
So to speak.
Sometimes you represent the guy who's on the wrong end. And that's okay, because we could help that person see the light, right?
Right.
And your job, for me at that point, is to make sure that they're not taken advantage of. Because like I represented one guy, and it was, he was accused of taking a certain amount of money, and I thought the damages against him were at $20,000 to $40,000 max, and the other side, he said $350,000.
Wow.
And I thought that was wrong, right? I mean, and so my position,
even though he messed up, he doesn't deserve that big a deal.
Right. And so my position was, look, he did wrong.
Yeah.
But this is where the damages are. And this sort of took everyone by surprise. And it took me a while to get my client to say, yeah, let's approach that, because it's an honest way of dealing with it.
Yeah. And
it also it will have an effect upon the mind of the judge to know, oh wait, this guy's admitting his faults.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is the damages just aren't as high as they are.
Right.
And as they're saying. And that's a powerful position for trial. So that's the types of things I do to handle it.
Well, that makes sense. That's a good way to be. So back it up a little bit. Your business that you owned before you went to before you went to law school, what was it?
It's very simple. It was washing windows.
Oh, okay. Like residential or commercial?
Both.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah, not very glamorous. Made me good money.
Got you through school.
Got me through school.
Right on. Awesome. So have you been with Davis Miles the entire time that you've been an attorney, or?
For about a year, I practiced in a small litigation firm in the D.C. area.
Okay.
And then thereafter, I came out and I started working for Davis Miles. So I've been here in the Valley since March 2006.
Okay. And then you've been with Davis Miles that
The
entire
whole time.
What has your experience been like in the big law firm?
So, for Arizona, Davis Miles is a big law firm. We're the largest law firm in the East Valley, and I think we're top 10 or 20 in Arizona as far as the size.
Okay.
If you look nationally, that makes us more of like a regional
Smaller,
size firm, but we're big for the East Valley, and we're big for Arizona. It's been good.
Yeah.
Culture has a lot to do with it. I've been at Davis Miles a long time, and we've really worked hard to try to create an environment where people want to work.
Yeah.
That culture did not come overnight. We had to work at it, and we had to make sure that we had people there that were positive. Because no one wants to work with a bunch of jerk faces. No one wants to work with the yellers. No. The law is full of these people.
Yeah.
Especially big firms are famous for them, where you get that partner in the corner, and he makes tons of money, but he's miserable to be around.
Right.
And he doesn't even like himself. And no one likes him.
Yeah.
But they like the money, and they're afraid to get rid of them. It ain't worth it. It's not worth our peace of mind, and we want to practice law in a certain way, in an ethical way. And it took a while to get all those links together, because it's still a pretty young firm. But I feel like there's ownership and buy-in from all the attorneys and staff, and it's a great place to be.
So do you guys have core values, mission statement? How have you instilled this culture?
Well, I mean, we worked on a mission statement, and don't ask me right now because I will never remember, but we have core values. We put them up on our wall, and and we worked on all those things, and it helped, because when you walk by the wall, you're like, oh yeah, our job is to make the lives of our employees, the lives of our clients, and the lives of the people in the community we serve better.
Okay.
And it's something that is
something that's
words those effects, and so that helped. It mainly helped getting rid of problem children and saying that behavior is not acceptable.
Right.
And that meant a lot. Like, oh, okay, so we can actually be normal human beings to each other. And,
Definitely. I remember the first law firm I worked at. It was very much that old school mentality of, I'm an attorney and I'm better than you, so you just have to listen to everything that I say. And so when I kind of took over some of the operations of other law firms, it was important to me that staff didn't feel like their input didn't matter, that they were just a number to be replaced. That identity, I think, is important to establish in the culture in your firm. So I think that's awesome. You've done that.
Absolutely. I cannot replace my legal assistant. I could put another body in the chair,
right,
but I'm not going to have the person with the same talents and the same skills. And that sort of, oh, you're entirely replaceable. It's not true. No one is, you can get someone else to do the job, but no one will bring those talents and skills that individual particularly have. And that doesn't mean that we can't find people to do jobs, but it just means that we have to actually value people. So,
I love that you say that, because I've talked to a lot of attorneys in kind of bigger conferences and whatnot, and their number one complaint is trying to find good people to work for them, trying to find people that will put out the production that they want them to put out. But the next thing they say is they just don't do it as good as them. They're looking for drones. They want people that are just like exactly what they want them to do, when they want them to do it, same personality types. And like those different personality types are important. You have strengths and weaknesses. I'm sure your legal
right.
assistant gives and takes some of those strengths and weaknesses and fills in the blanks. And I think that's more important than just filling, like you said, just putting a body in the chair.
Right. I agree with you.
Absolutely. Awesome. So what would you say is the hardest part of working for a large law firm?
Bureaucracy.
Yeah,
Right.
the red tape.
You have to have procedures.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have procedures, it'll be chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to know what the procedures are to make sure that everything's followed, so you are a tight ship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, it's chaos.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're just like, really, I can't have it my way? No, you can't have it your way. you have to follow the procedure.
I think sometimes, too, when something needs to change and maybe there's a better way, maybe that was the best way 6 months ago, but something has changed and it could be better. Sometimes it's harder to get it through that red tape, up the ladder before that change can actually happen.
Right. One of the things, way back at Davis Miles' early days, one of the things we had to change, we were a bunch of small practitioners who joined, and we had to change the fact that you don't, as an attorney, get your mail.
Okay.
And that sounds weird.
Nope, not at all to me. No one's allowed to give our attorneys mail.
You can't give the attorney's mail.
It gets lost.
It gets lost. And so they're like, I want the pleading on my desk first. No, you don't. You want that pleading
You want it scanned
in first. And then shuffled out to where it needs to be thereafter.
Right.
And but people were upset. I gotta have that. No. You have to follow the procedure.
Right.
So that's the hardest part about the big law firm is the bureaucracy. You have to compromise too, right?
Right.
You have to make sure that you're working in a way that allows other people to do what they need to do as well.
Absolutely. You kind of have to learn how to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. So what creative solutions have you implemented in your practice to overcome some of the bureaucracy challenges?
Yeah, well, one of the things, first of all, you just have to know what the rules are.
Right.
You just have to work with it.
So do you guys have a handbook with all the procedures, or how do you implement those procedures?
Yeah, we have some handbooks.
Okay.
But it's mostly trial and error.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one of our, how do we inform people about this is our, I think, one of our biggest training problems right now.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we've done is once in a while when I get a procedure, then I'm just like, you got to be kidding me, this isn't working. You know, is we communicate. I communicate with my legal assistant. We talk about why it's not working. We then go and we begin the campaign of, okay, hello, the person who's in charge, the decision maker.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Yeah. On this
is
end
not
that maybe you don't see.
You're not seeing this.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of respectful communication, and ultimately, the problems get ironed out. But you just have to be patient and work with it.
Do you guys have? Is there like a space created for that communication, or is it just however it works?
Yes. So one of the things that we've done is we created committees.
Okay.
And so we have certain people who, lack of a better words, it's that particular area at the firm is their pet peeve.
Okay.
Well, if you squeak too loud, you're put on the committee.
Yeah.
You fix it. You tell us how it's supposed to be done. And so you end up putting on the committee. The committee makes suggestions to the management team.
Mm-hmm.
The management team will frequently adopt committee suggestions. It's not like they care. They want the firm to run quickly, efficiently. Yeah. They want them happy because the happy worker makes money.
Absolutely.
And So there's various firm committees that will
So if
address
committees
them.
meet as their own little parts,
And then they make suggestions.
and then they make
changes
suggestions
come
to
down.
management through like email, or is there like a meeting that's
Meetings,
set aside,
emails,
Okay.
memos, whatever they feel like doing. We do have an employee relations committee that helps. We send out a survey every year
Uh-huh.
where people can voice anonymously. That can be hard at times, but it helps. And we really do have an open door policy, and no one is upset if you come in and say, "Hey, this ain't working."
Right.
And here's why.
Yeah.
They do want to hear solutions. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
you to waste their time. They don't. What do you
Don't
suggest?
just complain.
Just don't complain.
Come up with something.
Come up with something. But yeah, that's how we've addressed it. That's how I address it.
How many attorneys do you have there at Davis Miles?
I am not exactly certain. So we're really broken up into two firms.
Okay.
One is our traditional practice, and that's where I'm at, and one's our non-traditional practice. Our traditional practice is just like any other law firm, and there's about 30 lawyers.
And how many staff?
Probably 40 or so.
Okay.
I think that's about right. And then we have a non-traditional practice,
Mm-hmm.
and that has another 30 lawyers, and they're the ones who manage the Legal Shield contract.
Oh, okay.
So we manage the Legal Shield contract, and that's an interesting gig as an attorney.
Yeah.
A lot of those attorneys work from home.
Okay.
A lot of them work on their own time, and some have chosen to work in our campus and our Mesa campus. We have a Tempe campus and a Mesa campus. But there's a lot of freedom in that, where you work and how you work.
And that's why it's called the non-traditional.
That's our non-traditional,
Okay.
because they're mainly managing the Legal Shield contract.
Uh-huh.
They're helping. They do will packets, and they answer initial triage type questions.
Right.
And then once they reach a certain level, where they move them over to our traditional practice, where we.
So that's typically where attorneys start, is in the non-traditional Legal Shield side of things.
No, they could start. You have to have 2 years experience to be over there.
Oh, okay.
And typically everyone who works there has a reason they want to work there, and it's private to them.
Oh, okay. I see.
But it's not. There's quite a few really talented older attorneys who work there that the clients love, and so they just like that
They
practice.
just like it. They like the flexibility or whatever it is.
Whatever it is, the
Yeah.
flexibility of working from home.
Okay.
There's one guy who didn't drive. One guy, he liked to work from Rocky Point.
Okay.
I mean, I used to call him and, "Hey, how you doing? What about this?" And I said, "And how's the weather?" He's, "Oh, I'm looking at the beautiful waves right now." This jerk. I mean,
Yeah, you can't complain about that.
So everyone has their own special
own
reason why
reasons.
they're there. Just like any other practice.
That makes sense. Who's your ideal client in your practice?
Ugh. There's, as far as the ideal client, it typically is someone with a complicated problem at death
Okay.
or just before they die.
Okay.
Those are my ideal clients. So I get a lot of clients from small estate planning firms
Yeah.
that don't do litigation. And then they'll get this crazy problem. They're like, "I don't know what to do with this."
Yeah.
And then that problem gets passed on to me. And so that's like 80% of my practice right there.
And there's not a lot of probate litigators in the Valley, are there?
No, we tend to be small bar, and everyone knows each other. You have to be nice and play nice, because you're going to see that person over and over again.
Right.
And they do talk bad.
Yeah, word gets around.
Word gets around very quickly. And so I I'm looking for someone who has that complicated legal problem just before death or right after death.
Just before or right after.
And that could be a business problem. That could be a will contest, a trust contest. That could be multiple competing wills that are unusual. It could, real estate problems that arise after death. That happens quite a bit.
Right.
So I take in the problem, I triage it, and I might come up with, both commercial and probate solutions.
Okay.
Or real estate solutions.
Right.
I might be doing a quiet title, and then I might open a probate, and I do a lot of issues, disputes regarding beneficiary designations. I've had a lot of those lately. So that a lot of times that goes to just regular civil court, and while it sounds like probate because people have died and you're talking about the decedents, you're talking about the decedents' wishes, it isn't really probate because you're dealing with really third-party beneficiaries to a contract issues.
I see.
So,
how many leads would you say you get on any given week?
I don't even know. 3 or 4?
3 or 4. And how many open probate litigation cases do you generally have at any given time?
Oh man, at least 50.
That's a lot. That's a lot on your plate.
Yeah, and some of them are small. And a lot of times with probate, it's just waiting around, watching the deadlines move. You do a bunch of work. You want to make sure that you get past the creditors period, and then you finish up the work. But yeah, I have a lot of open cases, but not all of them are active.
Okay. A lot of hurry up and waits.
A lot of hurry up and wait.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And you just have the one legal assistant that helps you?
I have one legal assistant. I get the use of multiple associates.
Oh, okay.
So, that will take certain types of cases. I like certain associates for certain cases.
And are you mostly hourly billing? Do you do any flat rate?
I do some flat fee.
Okay.
A small amount of my practice is just a traditional probate and trust administration. And
like the uncontested side?
Uncontested stuff. I'll do some of that flat fee.
But once you get into the
but it's not a lot of it. But if you look at where I got my money, it was all from litigation.
Okay, that makes sense. So what's your greatest piece of advice for young lawyers who want to work in the legal industry?
Oof. Patience.
Okay.
It is hard to get started. And I try to take...
Why do you think that is? Why is it so hard to get started?
I think it's because it's hard to find good mentors.
Okay.
And, I heard it, I don't know if it's true. I heard a statistic that half of lawyers at 5 years will not be practicing. If you graduate at 5 years, you're not going to be practicing half of them. I don't know if that's really true. But I have seen anecdotally quite a few people start but never get past that 5 or 10 year mark, and they're out.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's, for me, it was really hard to get started. You feel like you're drinking from the fire hose.
Okay. It's just
all the time.
Too much.
And that's part of why I picked one practice area, so I could really get good at it.
Right.
But that sort of drink from the fire hose can really create a lot of anxiety, and I think a lot of people, it overwhelms them. There's also the law isn't like a happy place a lot of times.
I get that.
There's a lot of lawyers who want to say, "Oh, that person's so stupid." And I can't believe they did that. Well,
they get super frustrated.
And they talk down about their colleagues, and I think we need to build up associates. We need to treat people and our colleagues well.
Yeah.
And because no one practices perfect law, everyone practices law.
Right.
And So I think my advice is find a good mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient with yourself. It's going to be a long time before you start seeing the money you want to make.
Right.
It's going to be a long time before you start feeling comfortable. Just know you will feel comfortable at some point. And hopefully you'll enjoy it and help people along the way. I think one of the problems is it's hard just to jump in.
Yeah.
If you are if you're a consumer of law and you need litigation, do you go to that young person who's never done the case?
No, you want somebody that's experienced.
You want someone old and ugly who has seen.
I don't know about ugly, but definitely experienced.
Well, it is the one area of law where the one profession where the older you get, the uglier you get. They're like, I really like that guy.
He's good at what he does.
It's an okay thing, but you want to see some sophistication.
Right.
That's hard to get, and it's hard to find people to believe in you as you get started.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that mentor who can say, come on, this is how you do it, it's imperative.
I think you hit the other nail on the head too, in the fact that I think attorneys going to law school, even you, when you decided to go to law school, you had this idea of what it was going to be like once you graduated and all the things you were going to be able to have. And like you said, it takes a long time to work up to get to that point where you are actually in this vision that you saw, 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I think you have to find a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really enjoy that area of law.
Right.
You have to, and if you don't, you have to either find a new area or convince yourself you like it, because otherwise it'll be miserable.
Yeah.
And you have to feel like you really are making a difference.
Definitely.
And it can't just be about money.
Mm-hmm.
Money's good. I like money. Okay, more money the better. But it can't. That can't be the goal.
Can't be the only driving force.
Because you won't practice good law.
Yeah.
If you just think about the money, you won't practice good law. You're going to treat your clients as ends, not means.
Mm-hmm.
As means to an end.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way you treat your client. And so your client needs to feel like you help them.
And like you want to talk to them.
You want to talk to them. You want to move the ball for them. You want to help them. They have to feel that.
Right.
It's going to make your life happier. It's going to make their life happier.
And it's going to make you more money in the end.
It's going to make you more money in the end.
Yeah.
They're going to be happier about paying their bill.
But I think, too, and I've talked to attorneys about this, that are in a practice area, don't want to be in a practice area, they don't like it, but that's the only thing they're experienced in. And so they don't know really how to move from one, and I think you did it very early, which was smart on your part. You decided, I'm not sure how I feel about this, and you kind of dabbled and figured it yourself out. A lot of attorneys, they've taken so long to get through law school, they have families to provide for, so once they hit that practice area and decide they don't like it, they're stuck. They don't know where to go from there.
And I was lucky enough to be at a firm that was young.
Yeah.
And we were still trying to find our feet when I joined the firm. And so when they saw someone who's wanted to take on a challenge, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Let's do it.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I just all of a sudden jumped in. I started with one case.
Yeah.
And I worked really hard at that one case while I was doing the other stuff. And then next thing you know, I had 2 cases. It took about 3 years, and I looked down at the end of the 3 years at my billables, and it was like 70%, 65, 70% of my practice, that probate and trust litigation. And I was like, how'd that happen? And if you look at it now, it's in the areas I've discussed, that it's 99% of my stuff.
Right. So it's a gradual thing.
It was a gradual thing.
So your advice to another
years.
attorney that maybe is in a practice area that they're not super satisfied in, that just try a case here, try a case there.
Find someone who's willing to work with you.
Yeah.
That's the advantage. I had an attorney reach out, and she wanted relatively recently, and I want to do this for everyone, but this person was approached me in the right way, and she says, I have a client. I want to try this area. will you mentor me? And she was outside the firm. I said, I thought about it. I said, okay, we could do this case together. And yeah.
And that's how it works.
And so I mentored her through. So but that was one case, and then she could do
She learned and grew, and
Yeah.
awesome. Where do you see the legal industry going in 10 years?
Yeah. It's hard because we have the vast majority of people can't afford our services.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people who would like to use our services.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we get through that
Yeah.
because, the economics of the situation.
Right.
I do think there's going to be a continued push to offer services like they offer at my firm through the Legal Shield. I think that will continue to grow.
Yeah.
Those types of services. I think you're going to find small practitioners that begin to offer more flat fees.
Yeah.
Maybe, a smorgasbord of a certain number of hours per month per client, some creative type fees for those.
Right.
In my practice area, I see a lot of growth potential. Baby boomers will be dying.
Yeah.
As long as wealth continues to grow, stock markets continue to grow, there'll be money to fight over. When there's money, people steal it.
Mm-hmm.
All those things happen, and that fuels my practice. That infighting, the greed, it ends up fueling the practice.
Absolutely.
So as long as we continue
So you don't
to
see
have
legal
growth,
industry changing in your field?
I don't
really
see it changing a lot. There will be new legal issues arising. We have this new law in Arizona where you can make digital wills.
Yep.
That's interesting. How's that going to change things? There will be litigation arising out
Absolutely.
of that. That was really a gift to litigators.
Yeah. It's going to cause a lot of arguments.
There's going to be a lot
as
of
far as like the
arguments on that.
validity and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's possible to make legal fees cheaper by making your overhead cheaper?
Yes. I mean, I think it's possible. What drives fees is what the market will bear.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my industry, what drives, we all have to worry about what the judge will think of my fees if they're ever presented.
Right.
And so I have to note, what are other people charging?
Yeah.
When I see the fees come in. And when I see what this is called, something called a notice of basis of compensation, and some probates have to file. And I look, what are they charging?
Yeah.
How much per hour? The basic terms. That's what drives it. Because if you're too high, then a judge will slash you down.
Yeah.
You have to be within industry standards.
Right.
That tends to have a creep effect. If you are a hot dog in one particular area of law, then you could charge it a little bit more. And
yeah.
so when a judge
but only
says,
so far.
"Oh, I've seen, Bob Sewell in here 15 times, and he seems to know what he's doing," so when he charges $15 or $20 more an hour than the next, or
it's justified.
They're going to justify it.
But do you think that with the rise of solo practitioners, do you think those fees are for like maybe the bigger law firms? Do you think they're, because I mean that's what's happening from what I can see on our end, is those solo practitioners are not charging as large of fees, and as there's more and more of those, which they're flooding the gates every day, graduating law school. Do you think that they will have an effect on your prices?
Well, I think they have an effect on those things which are consumer-based. So if you're doing a basic estate plan, if you're doing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, I think those types of things will have a more push down.
But the litigation side of things.
The litigation side there's not a lot of people who do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to break in.
Yeah.
The push for the fees, in my opinion, comes from what other people think they could charge, based on responses from their clients. So, yeah, I suppose the competition can drive prices down,
Mm-hmm.
but this is, from what I'm doing, is pretty specialized, and
Right.
so I'm not seeing a lot of push down on prices yet.
Do you think that's why it's so hard to find a mentor as a new attorney, is because the older mentors, the experienced ones, are like, well, what I do is really specialized and I charge money for it. I don't necessarily want to train 5 other attorneys to do what I do.
I don't know. I don't know why it's so hard to find a good mentor. It was hard for me. Growing up, I've been doing it for quite a while now.
Yeah.
So those early years were just hard,
Mm-hmm.
My record was good, but it didn't, I was often left wondering,
Right.
was this exactly right? I see what the
Mm-hmm.
law is. I think it's just hard to find people willing to be patient
Yeah,
enough to do it.
that makes sense. So last question. Do you have anything to plug? Your law firm, your Facebook? Are you doing anything new and exciting right now that we should know about?
Yeah, so I'm always willing to plug my law firm.
Yeah.
We are a full service law firm. We offer, anything you could imagine.
Uh-huh.
I'm always interested in referrals for my practice. I need to point out, I have a firm policy, and most everyone on my policy has this same policy. If you make a referral, that client comes back to you. And that was one of the things that I make absolutely clear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to, even if you for the specialized litigation, and
Just because they come to you for one thing doesn't mean you're just going to do everything for them. You're going to turn
Right.
around and give it back to the original
right,
attorney.
and I tell the client that you take this, I tell the client,
Mm-hmm.
go back to that attorney and get it, and even if that attorney doesn't do that practice area, I want you to get a referral from that attorney.
Right.
And the reason why is because I want another referral from that attorney. So I will help you.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that you're going back to that attorney for other services. And I think clients get that.
Yeah.
They get that I want to keep working. They get that attorney wants to keep working. And I've had a lot of success getting people back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the biggest concerns with the small and mid-sized practices is, well, if I refer, I never see that client again.
Yeah.
And you have to understand it's just not the way I'm going to roll. You call me up, you refer me to the client, or you send me an email, I'm going to make sure
Good to
that
know.
client. And I put in my database
Uh-huh.
the referral source. So if attorney Frank Johnson gave me the referral, I put right there in the file, Frank Johnson is
a
referral
referring
source.
attorney. Okay.
And that way I could keep track.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you all for listening to The Millennial Attorney. If you got something out of our show this week, please share our podcast with a friend. Like us on Facebook, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, rate us on iTunes or Spotify. If you have a story to tell about what's made your law firm better, we want to hear it. If you have any questions, suggestions, or would like to be a guest on our podcast, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at info@mottlegal.com. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram at Mott Legal, or follow us on Twitter at Made for Lawyers. Thank you so much and have a good week.